Howdy, folks. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am your host, the Mighty Bjorn, and today for you all, I have a brand new Dungeons and Dragons video. Going to be taking some time today, and I'm going to kind of focus on some tips here for Dungeon Masters. And let's just put it this way. So you've put together a campaign. You're going to be the Dungeon Master. This may be your first time being a Dungeon Master. Maybe you've actually been a Dungeon Master before, but you don't have a ton of experience at it. And essentially, an issue comes up where basically the players find an exploit. You give them a powerful item, a spell, a perk, etc., and essentially now, because of it, they've learned how to exploit that item, perk, spell, etc. And now it's kind of put a bit of a glitch in the matrix for you, and it's causing all kinds of problems. And essentially, it's game breaking, and it's just breaking your campaign in general. Now, with that being said, it's not necessarily their fault, so you can't outright spank them for it. So essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 6 tips of different things that you can do to take and maybe kind of bring balance, bring order back to the chaos, if you will, and maybe try and get things a bit more straightened out. But really quickly here, before I dive on into today's video, I just want to take time and quickly thank everyone who's been supporting my channel, the likes, the comments, the subscriptions, the shares. That all helps me out as a growing YouTuber. It helps bump me up in the algorithm, which is, well, the YouTube algorithm is just trash. I don't want to get too far into that. Also, I want to take and throw out a very special thank you to my Patreon supporters, as they do give the channel a bit of a budget, and it does help out. With that being said, my Patreon is a great way to get updates on content I am working on, stuff that's going to be coming up on my YouTube channel, etc. There's a link down below in the video description. Go and check that out if you would like to. Anyway, folks, so let's get into the focus of today's video. I'm going to start with the first tip, and honestly, these tips are not in any kind of order, but the first one I recommend is tougher encounters. Make your encounters tougher. Have more creatures in your encounters. Throw tougher creatures in general at your players. That kind of helps a little bit. It kind of helps bring a little bit more balance back into it, as well as it's actually rewarding to the players themselves as they gain more experience points. They get more treasure, things of that nature. And after so long of doing that, they'll actually increase levels, and it will kind of level things out. So, you know, maybe if it's a magical item that you gave them that's kind of throwing things off, maybe do this and kind of give them a bit of a dry spell on magical items as they gain levels. And then, it'll, like I said, it'll kind of even itself back out. It's worked for me in the past. Another one is tougher consequences. You know, if your characters are doing something stupid, like trying to summon a devil in the middle of, you know, a city, make sure that they pay the consequences, and they pay the consequences very steeply. Don't go easy on them when it comes to consequences. Make the consequences themselves tougher and follow through with them. One thing you can do, if it doesn't matter if it's a magical item or a spell, is actually use, like if they go into a dungeon, have some type of anti-magic field that's disrupting magic within the dungeon, and it's disrupting magical items as well. That's essentially, it's a temporary nerf, but it's a way to kind of nerf the players, if you will. That's not a permanent thing. That maybe because of the nerf and whatever they do throughout the dungeon, it might kind of level things back out by the time you get out of the dungeon, or even if it's just a temporary leveling things out. Another thing you can do is change the encounters itself. Maybe you had it planned that it's going to be, example, a Bullet. Change the encounter to a Beholder, especially a Beholder, because a Beholder actually does have a anti-magic ray that will disrupt use of magic. You could also use tougher enemies, maybe spellcasters that has, you know, counter spell or some other type of spell that disrupts magic. So that could be another way to temporarily, I wouldn't say penalize your players, but temporarily even things back out. So that way things are a bit more balanced. Now, if you're looking for a more permanent solution, honestly, this is one of my favorites. Use rust monsters. Rust monsters will even destroy magic items, such as magic swords and things of that nature, magic armor. So if it's a piece of armor or a shield that's kind of throwing the balance off of your game, well, then there you go. A rust monster is a great answer to that solution. Of course, the trick is you kind of gotta corner your players into actually fighting the rust monsters, or if they're murder hobos, well, then they may actually just go after the rust monsters and actually essentially do all the work for you. Now, this is the final one, and this is probably the biggest one. And it doesn't matter if it's a magical item, it doesn't matter if it's a spell, it doesn't even matter if it's a perk. And that is read the rules. People sometimes in a rush, they read over something quickly, and they completely skip something. Maybe your player is actually trying to cheat and trying to ignores a part of a rule, or maybe the player doesn't really understand a part of a rule, especially when it comes to spells and some of the really high-end magical items. Things can get a little confusing. Take a moment to actually read it over and understand the rules and everything else that goes around using said item, because that could be all the problem actually is there's not you don't understand the rules clearly, or your players don't understand the rules clearly, and that's actually what's throwing the balance off in your game. So that's actually a good solution in itself. But anyway, folks, there it is. Really quick and dirty. 6 tips to kind of deal with player exploits within your Dungeons and Dragons campaign. Hopefully you all enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for tuning in, and have yourselves a wonderful day.